back with another episode of The Crossover with your host, Ravi and B. This week is a lot of stuff to discuss. We're going to go have a little bit of a post-mortem on the All-Star game, and then we're going to get right into some of this trade deadline stuff that happened, that went down today. So, Ravi, man, just throw us your thoughts on kind of wrap this up in a bow at All-Star Weekend, the T-Dot, or the Six, or whatever you want to call it, is Hogtown. You want to go for real old school.
Wow, you're taking it really old school.
Oh, yeah, man. Taking it back, man. 40s, 30s reference?
Nice. You know what? I think overall, the city represented the All-Star Weekend very well. In terms of ratings and things like that, I saw a report that came out this week. From a ratings perspective, it was a hit, throughout the country. TV stations, they got a lot of viewership off of that. In terms of the actual events, you know what? I had to take my words back because in our preview of the All-Star game, or the All-Star Weekend, I had some harsh words for the dunk contest, and that actually proved to be one of the most one of the more entertaining points of the weekend. Again, in my opinion, I think Aaron Gordon should have won, but hey, it was a good back and forth between him and Zach LaVine. I think we had a great 3-point contest as well. Clay overshadowing his teammate there, coming on strong in the end.
Yeah, little brother phenomenon there, right there, man. Stepping up.
That's exactly it. And then we get to the big game, the big dance on Sunday, and it was not what I was looking forward to. We all watched it together. I know it's not what the type of game you were looking forward to. It was just pretty much a scrimmage, nothing more than that. Highest scoring game in All-Star history. The West scoring 196 points. It was. I think we mentioned it offline. It was embarrassing to a certain extent with the lack of defense. Guys actually getting out the way. Instead of trying to make the game somewhat competitive.
Right.
Like I said, I was kind of hoping for a repeat of the 2003 All-Star game when it was Jordan's last one. It was very competitive. Went into OT. Had a bit of drama there at the end, but it was none of that this weekend. No,
not at all. I think we got a little lag going on here today, but starting with Sunday, I think what it comes down to me is that this is where I think someone like Kobe's going to really be missed, because his competitiveness was kind of in his heyday where it made this game a lot more serious. Not serious where people are trying to hurt someone or playing that aggressive, but the All-Star game always had a nice balance where guys would pace themselves for about half, even up to the third quarter potentially, and the fourth quarter was like a sprint. We're on now, and guys would dig into it. There was from the moment it started, it was like we're not even having any resistance. We're not running plays. And I think it's going to be a real concern for the NBA because we both were in organizations that had tickets floating around as far as giving stuff like that, so we kind of had an idea how much these things were worth on price. And you're paying some of these prices were going $1,000 in this case for certain tickets for Sunday. That was the low end, I think. And you're right, and you're paying for that. Guys got to give some effort. I expect guys to be kind of there, dropping double teams and pressers on no one, but you said before, stepping out of the way for folks, that was the one blemish I think for the whole weekend besides the weather. For my American friends, chill out, guys. You guys act like in this case everybody in America lived in Hawaii. Dudes, you have states called Minnesota, Utah, the great state of New York, Massachusetts. Last time I checked, they get snow. It's real cold too. Toronto pretty much has been pretty much snow-free and pretty much winter-free, except for this past weekend. So I won't get too much.
And for some of the tourists there, that the cameras caught complaining about the weather. How about zipping up your jacket?
Exactly. How about that?
How about putting a scarf on? How about that?
Jeez. Anyways, let me not get too much in that, man. There's so much whining, man. It's come on, man. I thought you made a tougher start than that. My goodness, man. But going back to the events, Saturday night was fantastic. I even thought Friday was really good. The celebrity game, the rookie sophomore game. Guys you expect to show out did. I said before, the only little blemish was Sunday evening. Unfortunately, I thought the court looked great. I think Toronto really needs to consider this whole theater look for them for the ACC. I love the look of it.
I think the court looked fantastic. I really like the Cirque du Soleil performance to open the show.
Yeah.
I thought it was really well done.
I missed that part, but I heard
I was kind of curious to see how they would play into it, but I think they did an amazing job. I think for me the biggest miss on Sunday is, I mean, aside from the lack of competitiveness in the game,
and Nelly Furtado's rendition of the national anthem. Which you honestly, to be fair to her, I listened to it again. Like, I've only heard snippets of it because I was driving to your place. Yeah. But I actually listened to it in full yesterday. It's not as bad as people make it out to be.
Hey man, I'll say this: I'm no singer, so to me, it was fine. I'm not one to criticize anyone. I don't sing. I can't carry a tune. So hey, it was all good for me.
It's all good.
But what I mean, like I was saying, I think the other big miss, I think it was a huge miss. I don't know if it was the NBA marketing people or I don't know who planned the events, but the halftime show.
Oh, jeez.
And we said it last weekend or last week, and I'll say it again this week. I don't think Sting was nothing against Sting, great performer in his own right, but I don't think Sting was the right performer for this particular.
Yeah, it definitely seemed out of place.
It was
for the entire weekend. It was like, whoa, Sting? Like, what the heck? Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's pretty much like seeing 50 Cent perform at your aunt's dinner party. Like, it just...
It don't seem right. But the thing is, I mean, when you looked at just a couple weeks before the Super Bowl, they look at that, who would have thought that, most times usually the NBA is the one that's kind of on the cusp of what's going on and stuff like that. The NBA is usually lagging behind. But in the NFL, but the NFL is the one that, to some extent got more of what's happening today versus, more cutting edge to what's compared to what the NBA gave. I'm like, really? Like, yeah, I don't know who messed that up, as the NBA or MLSC. I sense it's the latter, but I won't put too much shade there. But someone messed up on that. Someone
messed up there. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a glaring omission when the All-Star game is in Toronto, and you have arguably the hottest artist, or one of the hottest artists in the game right now. Obviously, Drake. We're speaking about.
I don't think he wanted to do it. I think he wanted to just hang out and shoot the breeze. I don't think he wanted to perform. I think it's one of those things like, I don't want to do that work. I don't want to work that day. Honestly, that's what it was. I mean, he's having a good time. He's doing the coaching of the celebrity game. He's announcing the players. He's like, I don't want to work in this case when it comes to watching.
To your comments when we were watching that, can you imagine if he did Hotline Bling during the halftime?
Oh yeah, it would have gone crazy in there. But I think also too, someone made a great point on one of the podcasts I listened to. I completely forgot about this point. A lot of the other Canadian artists that you potentially get, or you just artists, period, big name ones, were at the Grammys preparing for performances, so you forgot that is also an element. Now, true, I still think you can find someone in there. I mean, there's tons of artists you could have found, but I mean, a lot of the, I guess most of the ones that you would expect maybe to see at this type of event, quite a few of them would have been at the Grammys, and that is something to consider as well too. But I don't think, I still think there's enough that you can find there that you didn't have to go to Sting. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's move on. I think just one point I want to make here, man. Raptors in Toronto did a great job of hosting. Give props. Raps came off of a world class team. DeRozan and Lowry, did a great job as kind of the proxy hosts of the event. And overall, I think the city did well in this case. Across the board. With that, and I think people came away saying like, "Oh wow, it's like it's nice." Guys are talking about coming back to summertime and stuff. So I think they got what they wanted out of it, except for a blizzard, one of the coldest weekends like in all time in history. So you can't prepare for the weather. But besides that, Toronto did their thing, man. So let's move on to today, deadline day in the NBA trade deadline. Quieter than I think most people thought. I thought it would be a little bit more. I guess a little more activity going on considering the cap space that the people are going to have. Maybe that's the reason why maybe it worked in reverse. Maybe teams were kind of holding their powder to the summertime and saying, you know what, we're not trying to add any salary on now when caps are going to explode. Maybe that's the reason why it's not as much as last year.
Here's my take on it. I mean, we spoke just briefly offline how quiet it was today. And I think a lot of teams are looking at the Golden State Warriors and saying, you know what? We're not stopping this team this year. So let's just hold tight. Let's just hold tight and regroup and wait until this run is over this year.
Maybe.
So
I get.
I think that played a little bit.
Yeah, I can get that in the West. I get that, but in the East, I don't see why teams would be a little more aggressive than they were. I mean, Detroit obviously is right at the cusp. As a Pistons fan, I thought overall it was a pretty good move for them, getting Harris.
Tobias Harris,
Yeah,
the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, Magic. I think maybe overall they might give it a little too much, a little bit. I mean, those two quality rotational players for a guy that's not really a star, but he puts up points. He's 17, 18 a game usually, so. Yeah. They need some young, dynamic type of scorer on the perimeter. It's just killing us. I mean, watching a Piston game was not easy on the perimeter. I get it. Jackson is doing his thing, but you need a guy that can knock down shots, and Harris can do that to some extent. So I get that. The Channing Frye is a sneaky little pickup. Yeah.
Well, I think it'll definitely help out Cleveland if Channing Frye can regain. His past form. Orlando, I think he signed that $32 million contract.
True.
It's been pretty disappointing since he signed that.
True, but it's amazing when you have Kyrie Irving and LeBron James to get double teams and how much better the quality shot will be. I don't think he just forgot how to shoot. I think it's like I think now he's getting a few more freebie open shots than what he was getting before. He's Orlando. It's like he's gonna get some shots. Like he's gonna get his opportunities now. I think, that one there balances off the front court a little bit better for Cleveland. Gives them another option, especially, and this is the Kevin Love backup plan. If things don't go right, in this case, you're in a playoff series, and Love is getting his handed to him on defense, they have someone in this case who can simulate his offensive skills to some extent.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Love is a much better post player. There's no two ways about that. But can still provide kind of that dynamic of a threat on the outside and give driving lanes.
I mean, that's primarily what he is in Cleveland. I mean,
right.
You don't really get to see his post game as such. So
right.
I mean, it's a great backup.
Right. It does also give the opportunity to make you wonder. In this case, that you make a move in the offseason with Love.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the other thing that gives a little flexibility.
It just gives him that added flexibility.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out. That's an interesting little move there, but I think it's a good move for Cleveland. Verjao, I think, doesn't really fit in. I mean, I think Verjao should get more minutes, but there's so much guys are kind of the same. To have him and Mozgov and Thompson is like, okay, all of them are not, great perimeter players, obviously, and all of them are pretty much guys that want to be around the paint. So, Mozgov post up, Thompson and Verjao are essentially the same type of player, just Thompson more athletic. I think in this case here, it's a good move for Cleveland. It's a sneaky little move that could pay dividends in the playoffs. How about the home team here, man? I'm really surprised they didn't make a move, honestly.
I was very surprised. We heard a lot of talk. You had Al Horford's name being thrown around.
Jeez.
Leading up to the All-Star break.
I would have passed out right there in the street if Al Horford showed up in Toronto. Man. I'd be like, oh, Lord, let me clutch my pearls. I was, oh, my goodness. Like, don't tease me.
Yeah, I mean, it's very surprised they didn't make a move. I think two of the biggest moves that worked, and that we heard a lot about, Dwight Howard. We heard a lot of talk about him. A lot of experts were saying it was a sure thing he would have been gone. And some surprise chatter coming out of Clipperland with some talk around. I
never bought into that, man. Like, good Lord, there's like a 26-year-old superstar guy. It's giving you like 20 and 10. Who's trading that for a 32-year-old point guard to be your sneaker? Come on, folks. Like, really?
That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
If you're going to trade Blake Griffin, I want you to put a list there of who you would give me the top 3 guys you would trade Blake Griffin.
There's only about 4. We had this discussion a year ago when the rumors were they're trying to talk about Anthony. I mean, New York media was trying to push Anthony Blake trade. I'm like, man, you must be smoking something, man, if you think anybody in LA would make that deal. There's only like 3 players in the league that you could trade Blake Griffin for and get true value for. One plays in Cleveland. One probably plays, in this case, in Golden State now. I think is a legitimate thing now. Maybe a couple of years ago, maybe not, but one definitely plays in Golden State. And one plays in Oklahoma City.
Correct.
Probably 2 play in Oklahoma City. And you get past that, now we're talking about, after that, it's like, there's not a lot of folks I'm looking for where I'm like saying, you're Kawhi. Even people love old Kawhi. I'm not trading Blake for Kawhi straight up this one. Sorry. All you Kawhi lovers out there, I'm not doing that deal. I'm sorry, man. You better put something else in that deal. Put a green or something in that deal, but you ain't getting that straight up. I'm sorry.
No, not at all.
So to me, it's like you talk about 4 dudes in the league. 4 probably. That's it. There ain't no one else I'm thinking. But even Cousins, I'm not trading him straight up for.
No.
What's Cousins done that I should be trading him straight up for?
That's exactly
Win 25, 30 games a season? I mean, so this whole thing about trading this, that, you're not getting any value for Blake trading to anybody. You're not. Even when they had the rooms with Kevin Love, I'm like, I don't care how many numbers Kevin Love was putting up in Minnesota at the time. I'm sorry, he's not better playing Blake Griffin. I feel like I've been vindicated in that front in this case.
Well, the one they had with Kevin Love, I think we heard just last week, middle of last week, was love to New York for Anthony.
Well, that was a rumor for years.
Yeah.
There's no way you're doing that. That's nonsense. I mean, give me a break. And then the other one they had there was when they had rumor of Blake going to Denver, right? It was going to be, and this one is actually in some ways getting to some parts. This one wasn't even that bad. It was Gallinari, Fareed, and I can't remember who the third person. It might have been same Foy that got traded today. As a part of a deal, maybe a pick was involved, and Blake, and you send off Stevenson's contract. At least in that sense, that makes some sense. Where it's like, okay, if I can't get the star player coming back that's worth Blake's value, I build a whole bunch of guys that at least whenever Chris Paul breaks down, I got enough guys moving forward. At least I can start kind of having a semblance of still a decent team, and hopefully I can get a new star in free agency. That one, to some extent, made some sense. That's kind of the Nuggets, what the Nuggets do with Carmelo. In a sense, doing the same thing. I get that. So Gallinari's a guy's something like 18 points a game or something like that. 20. Gallinari lights it up. He seems to be fully healthy. Fareed's a solid power forward. Yeah, great, but solid power forward. And I can't remember who the third person was. Was a decent, serviceable player too. It's like, if you did get a pick in there, I think that might be a bit much. But even if you did, that's a solid trade for Blake Griffin. And even though that one made a little more sense than some of the Carmelo Anthony. Man, Carmelo Anthony barely stay on the floor for 10 games straight. Give me a break. Come on, people. I love New York media. That's got New York media written all over it. How about you give us, it'd be like, it's like, how about you give us DeRozan and Lowry, and we will then just give you Calderon and a pick in this case here, and that'll be good. Like, all of a sudden, really, that's classic New York. Give us everything you have, and we'll just throw in a couple of, basketballs, a few bones, and it's like, and it should be an even deal. Oh, I love New York media, man.
Yeah. I still have a little bit of goodwill left for New York because they took Andrea from us. So
you got that right. And they froze in the Lowry deal too. That was a twofer. They showed that deal the other day, I think, on some website. I was like, ooh, that's got hurt. Knicks fans.
You look back at that one, boy.
Was it Calderon the stumbling block? Who was the stumbling block?
Yes.
It was Calderon the stumbling block
I think
for New York?
Well, one of their medicals didn't pass, I believe.
No, it was a player that they didn't want to trade. Oh, it was, what's his name? It was either Shumpert or Hardaway. They didn't want to do the deal. No, it wasn't that. My apologies, everyone. It was the pick. They didn't want to throw the pick back in there. That's what they held off on. They didn't want to give in their pick. So be it. I'll take the one you got now. That's all right. Keep on losing, New York. Keep on losing. That pick's going to look mighty fine this summer. Oh, man. Well, on that note, man, that's all I got, man. That's all I got. It's a crazy week, man. It's, it's in full swing, as they like to say. We're now in the sprint, 30 games or so left. So
we are gearing up.
Yeah.
I think in terms of positioning, what we see right now in the standings, you're gonna see a few teams jockeying here and there as we come down the stretch.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone's watching Golden State out west, see if they're going to beat that Chicago Bulls record.
Right.
20 years old, so we'll see if it gets broken this season.
You know what? Let's do it next week. Let's do a kind of second half of the season discussion because I think there's some interesting storylines. Yeah, I think you got some good points to bring up about that and other things that we can break down. But yeah, I think this warrants a full show for itself, man. So we'll do that next week, man. Let's do it. Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting second half, man. So, man, for Ravi, where can the good folks find you, Ravi?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Ravi Narayan.
And you can find me at Beyond Locker Room, short form RM, folks. Yo, folks, glad for all you all that came here safe and sound. Enjoyed Toronto. Come back again. Got a beautiful city.
And we seen the block side. Some of you guys really enjoyed Toronto.
calling up people's business, man. On that note, man.
I can name names, Brian. I'm just saying.
No, we don't do that on this show. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.